My name's Alec Gonzales with Coaching the Redline. This is at the Redline podcast. I'm a life coach and spiritual director. I love to work with I'm a life coach and spiritual director, and I love to work with pastors and leaders. Really like working with salespeople and small business owners too. I have with me Corey James, who's a good friend of mine from our church, and just a really kind of a sweet guy. I hate to say it because it sounds kind of corny and but yeah. Anyway, Corey, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm excited
Of course, and I received that, Alec. I'll take that. I'm a sweet guy. I can.
I always like to start at the beginning. Childhood stuff. Where were you raised? Who's your daddy? Family of origin. How many children? I don't know. I like that stuff.
Well, okay. Well, that's gonna be a complex one because there's a lot of splitting. There's a lot of discovery in my family later on. So I'll try to boil it down to the smallest
just
denomination.
Childhood memories. What was it like being a little?
Like being a little. Well, my biological dad and mom divorced when I was 2.
Oh.
So kind of being, raised by a single mom. Then a stepdad eventually came into the picture, who became more like my dad, who I would say, raised me for the most part.
Uh-huh.
Until later on in life, reconnected with my biological father, and then saw him every other week, like on weekends. He got remarried as well, so then I had a stepmom. Then I had
it is getting complicated.
A brother and a sister from that marriage.
Okay.
Have one full brother, and then a half brother and sister from my stepdad.
Uh-huh.
And then time marched on, and we discovered we had more brothers and sisters that we were not aware of.
Nice. It's funny. Because it was Easter, I sent a little message to my brothers and sisters. A memory of Easter as a little kid. My dad would always make such a big deal of it. It seems like the one time my dad was like really engaged in our, family celebrations. Not that he didn't do a good job on other things, but man, he just really played a role. And I sent it out, and my brothers and sisters were like, "Yeah, Dad did such a good job." What was Easter like for you?
Oh, Easter. Gosh, I loved it, but it was a mix of like, we went. So my mom was Catholic, multi-generational, so we went to church on Sundays and Sunday school and all that. But my stepdad wasn't part of that piece, so he wasn't, at church. Prayer wasn't something that we did in the house. It was kind of interesting. It's like a mom with faith, and then dad not so much.
Okay.
And then later, my biological dad got very serious about Jesus. Had a home group, became a pastor.
Oh, wow.
And so then when I would go there, it was like, whoa, everything's celebrated a little bit different,
Yeah.
And so I loved Easter on both fronts, I guess. One was a more, I would say, kind of a mixture of secular Easter, with a lot of fun stuff and food and like games and cousins, and it was amazing and fun as a child.
Yeah.
And so we still do parts of that, I guess, because it was part of my upbringing. But no, obviously, Jesus is the central figure of Easter. So that was kind of part of my upbringing as a child.
Yeah.
But then it was kind of also wrapped in this secular context. And I think that's a lot of people, that's probably that mixture is what they're kind of used to. Yeah.
All right, Arc of Faith. I know it's a little more complex sometimes, but how would you say the arc of coming to a realization that Jesus is everything, and really surrendering to him and walking with him daily? How did that transpire for you, whether it was a long journey or whether it was relatively short? I wonder if you'd tell
Okay,
the story.
I will try to boil this down into, normally it takes me 45 minutes in like 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
Maybe 3.5.
yeah, 3.5 minutes. Mom said you go to church, whether you like it or not, until you become an adult, which in her eyes was about 17.
Okay.
So from tiny, I was going to church every Sunday until I was 17.
Okay. That's not bad advice.
Yeah, no.
I would give that to my kid.
Yeah.
He was forced to go to church until he decided. Of course, he decided
on his own that he wanted to. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did the polar opposite. I said I'm out. I'm out, and I'm never coming back. I just ran full sail into the world. Graduated college and high school at the same time. Got a job out of the gate, making as much as my parents' combined income, and was loving life. And I thought that trajectory would just continue till the day I died. Apart from God, apart from church, apart from the body, apart from any belief system.
How did that affect your family and relationships that were, back home or back in the church? I'm sure you made relationships with people that were, faith-filled types. How did that affect the relationships? I know I'm pulling the 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, I know you're gonna pull it. Well, see, my dad was very success based, and so he was happy. I was successful. I was doing well. He was doing well. So, I don't think anybody really questioned anything.
Were you obvious about your sort of rejection of faith?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't that hidden.
Yeah, that was just on the down low.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was in tons of Christian contexts.
Okay.
That opened all kinds of doors for me.
Because
people were like, "Oh yeah, but you were always part of the church, and we know like you got faith and all this stuff." And I'm like,
interesting.
I was like, well, no, but whatever,
Oh, that's so funny. I don't know how to say this without being kind of mean.
Oh no, you can be mean. I was like Paul, man. I was a hypocrite.
It's funny because Christians talk about this kind of Christian all the time. Don't do business with Christians; they're just a bunch of hypocrites.
Oh yeah, well,
but I've never actually met one.
That's like that.
That's not actually my experience. Like most Christian business people that I know are like us. We take our faith seriously. But you're telling me that you actually were what everybody talks about.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, money and success driven, and most of my circles, I would say, revolved around that.
Interesting.
And that's where the rubber hits the road at some point in time for everybody.
I get it. There's a tension there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. So
I'm sure it gets better from here.
I'm successful. I'm making great money. I have a great career, but I have a background still where God is still back there somewhere in my conscience. Because when I was a child, I knew the difference between right and wrong. It was from God's word. It was ingrained in me from when I was little.
Right.
And that never departed from me. When my lifestyle started having effect on myself and other people in my life that I cared about. And so in short order, what that looked like was, when you have a lot of money, your circle of friends are typically people that have a lot of money, which gives you a lot of access. Well, what does it give you access to? Well, what do you want? What does the world strive for? Power, sex, drugs, fame, like notoriety, whatever it is. Yeah. And so at the time I was dating a girl, which most people in Spokane agreed she was one of the most beautiful women here. She hung out with all the models, strippers, crazy lifestyle. And she kind of took me down this road that was in a life that I didn't, being raised in a kind of, pseudo-religious home, if you will. It's like there was a balance where it's like, well, we don't do these bad things, but there was an undercurrent where it was all kind of under the rug. it was all still there, but we knew it's like, well, you don't do these things. And so it's like, but my life, kind of stopped reflecting that facade, which really was what kind of broke through with me, the realization my whole life is a facade. Everything is, is an illusion that I created. What I even think is true about myself isn't. And then I had to face that reality, which looked like, I mean, this is kind of the things happen in life that you don't quite understand, So I was at a gay bar with my girlfriend. She was cheating on me with another man who was bisexual, and I was given a date rape drug at a party that we had, and then we subsequently went to that bar later. That was a level of overdose where it almost killed me. And then I found out later the reasoning behind it was nefarious because of what her other partner had in store for me. And that night really just kind of rocked my my world. Like, stuff started falling apart. I ended up losing my job. Um, I actually worked at the same place that my girlfriend worked at. We worked together, and so she ended up quitting and like literally left town. She moved away, didn't talk to me ever again.
Wow.
And I had a college roommate who was my best friend. He had a child. They were his wedding was coming up. I was really excited for him because his fiance was amazing. He was a really good friend. Anyway, long story short, that same evening he ended up getting one of our coworkers pregnant at the office I worked at.
Oh my.
And so that broke his relationship with his fiance. He didn't end up getting married. She went through a really struggling time, and it ended up breaking our friendship in an odd way. I don't know exactly why, but he became really mad at me. He said that I had kind of been a negative influence in his life, and there was some blame, which I think I received or probably deserved. I was not making good decisions. So, best friend, job, girlfriend, broken wedding that was coming up. And I said, yeah, it's probably all my fault. So, don't really know what to do about it. And so then, as a depressed person, I decided I would kind of end the suffering, if you will, of my own mental torment and hurt conscience. And so I went downtown Spokane, in Rose Street Bridge, got up on the side of it to jump off, and it was around midnight that I was down there, and a lady comes across the bridge walking her baby in a stroller. And I'm like, how is a lady gonna be on this bridge in the middle of the night? Like, or maybe won't sleep or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. And I just heard a voice that said, don't do it. Don't do it. You can't do it in front of this lady, especially. And I was like, okay, well, I stepped back. I said, I'll do it in private where, don't have to hurt this lady who's a stranger to me. I'll go do it somewhere else. So later I went home, and I hadn't been able to sleep. So I had everything. I had, like, I don't even know. Name, it's like CRI, like any kind of drug that was for anxiety. Like, I was on it, and none of it worked. I had sleeping pills. None of it worked. I had insomnia for over a year. I literally didn't sleep the night for over an entire calendar year. And so the torment just became so shattering to my life. I couldn't hold down a job. I was living at my parents' house in my old room, just awash, like no life, nothing. So anyway, downed pills, took a handle of vodka, chugged that thing, went to bed, woke up, nothing. I didn't even have a hangover. And then I started getting extremely angry with God. Like,
You figured out God, huh?
yeah,
At
this point,
you
I was
started
like,
thinking about God.
I started thinking about God, and I was angry with him
Oh, that's
because
hilarious.
I said, you won't even let me take my own life. I can't even do that part. I'm such a failure. I'm failing at taking my own life from myself.
That's shocking. It's funny. It's not funny, but
It
it is ironic, that you don't think about God all this time. Obviously, there's times when you thought about God, but now
Sure.
you give your full attention to him, and it's only to hate him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I woke up every morning. I just hated God. I would yell at him. I'm like, I know you're invisible. I know you hear me. I hate you. I tell God that I hate him. I tell God that I was so angry, and angry because he wouldn't even let me take my own life. Which I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't understand what I didn't understand, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on past that, how did the arc, bend towards God?
Yeah, so I was still frustrated, and I said, you know what? These 2 attempts have failed. Third time's gonna be the charm, and it's gonna stick. And so I made the decision. I would be in a location. So I was downtown. I was in a building. There was a receptionist. I was in an office upstairs at this point, like in a loft office. And I had a diary I found in the garage at my parents' that I had got in the 3rd grade, and I wrote on the last page of the diary. I wanted a letter to my family because I figured the police would look into it. They would figure out like why, because I had no blame or any like my family had never done anything to me. These are my own choices and decisions. They rested on me. So I wanted to let them know that none of this was their fault. Nothing that they had done. They had raised me well. They were great parents. I loved them. I love my brothers and my sisters. They're great, brothers and sisters. Always had been. I didn't want anyone to feel any guilt after I was gone, or even question that they had done anything. And so I wrote that. I hid it and locked myself in this building. Well, that was my plan. I was going to lock myself into the building where nobody could get in. And so anyway, long story short, my mom shows up. The receptionist calls me down from my office. My mom is standing in the doorway of the building, and she's like drenched. And I was like, Mom, is it raining outside? And she's like, no. And she had the diary in her hand. And it made no sense. She's like, I'm going to take you to the hospital. So they did blood work. They put me on suicide watch, and my mom told me, hey, they promised me one thing. You hold on for 1 year. If you'll just hold on for 1 year, just promise me that. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how much it hurts, just give me 1 year. And I promised her. I said, okay, Mom, I'll give you 1 year. I don't foresee anything changing, but I will do it for you because you're asking me. I'll give you that year. So she was praying like that whole year, that God would work in my life, show me something, reveal himself, save me. And so some time passed and this question came into my mind. How did my mom get the diary? Because it was hidden, and I hadn't written in it since I was like 11 or 10 years old. I got it for Christmas. I hadn't touched it in it like decade plus. It was in a box in the garage, and then it was subsequently hidden from there. And so then I started asking around, and in my family, my younger brother was in a punk band, and so like he was kind of sneaking out at night, smoking weed with his friends, stealing stuff, and so he just kind of had a little bit of a wild life. He was a wild child. my younger sister told me, she said, "Oh yeah, God was speaking to me, and he told me that I should go into your room and to go in this drawer and to remove things until the bottom of it and look underneath, and I found this book." And she said, and then he said, "Open it and turn it to the last page and read it." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she said, and then when I read it, I gave it to Mom.
Wow.
This is my younger sister who wasn't even, she was like a baby when I got this book as a present. So she didn't even know that it existed. And I was like, "Wait, God talks to people? Like, I don't understand. Like, how did he talk to you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm a Christian now." And then I was like, what does that mean? Like a Christian, like we all went to church and stuff." But she's like, "Oh no, I'm a born again believer. I have God's spirit. So I have a relationship with Jesus." I don't know. What is that? What is that? I don't know what that is. And then my brother, he invites me to his band. He's like, there's kind of been a change in our life and in our music and stuff. And so we're going to be playing at a church. And I was like, "What?" "What are you talking about?" Like
Wow.
a punk band playing at a church? I'm like, okay. And so he invites me to a concert, and I go to this concert, and I'm like, I'm not going to church. And anyway, I went. Guy shared the gospel there after the concert,
Uh-huh.
and he said, "Hey," he did the altar call thing, with like
Yeah.
raise your hand.
Yeah.
And there was like 500 people in the crowd or more, and I was the only one. I raised my hand to talk to him afterwards about the gospel. And so I started explaining like my life, and like I'd done all these things, and I wasn't sure, like, could God actually forgive all that stuff? And he'd said to me, he said, "I'm not sure."
Oh, he did?
Yeah. He said, "I'm not sure.
Wow.
But if you never ask him, you'll never know." And then he turned and walked away.
Wow.
And God obviously knew that was exactly what I needed to hear, because I wouldn't say that as a good template for like
No, I've never heard it
how
before.
you witnessed.
No.
But that's what he literally said.
I don't know. That's so bizarre.
And I went home and I had to wrestle with that. I had to wrestle with like,
yeah, of course.
if I ask God, because he told me Jesus died for all sin, all your sins, past, present, future. He shed his blood on the cross. He was buried. He rose again on the third day. And if you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you can and will be saved. Well, that wasn't the religious background that I had. I mean, I went to like things like confessional, where a priest would tell me, "Did you hit your brother today?" "Yes, I did. I punched him." "Okay, well, you need to make atonement for it. So the way you make atonement is you can walk an old lady across the road. And if you're kind to her, like that will kind of it'll even out the scales.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the problem is eventually when you go down this trajectory of life where you're living for yourself, well, some people ended up dying as a result of choices that I had made. And I'm like, I can't make up for it. It's impossible. What good could I do to bring someone back from the dead? I can't. And so when I heard the message of the gospel, I realized that even death itself could be atoned for, because if Jesus rose from the dead, then God has the power to atone for that kind of sin, things that we could never make up for. And so that night I put my faith and trust in the Lord, because I said, "God," and I knew, I mean, I went to church, but it was not like I didn't know the Bible
Right.
at all.
I get that.
I had no idea. And so I had this vague idea of like what baptism was. My parents had a swimming pool, and I literally went back into the backyard. I went to the pool, and I was like, "I don't know what baptism is, Lord. I don't even know how this works, but I want to be forgiven, and I want Jesus in my life, and I want you to forgive me for everything that I've done, and I don't know what else to do other than receive your forgiveness for my sin." And I just fell back in the water. and stood up. Like all the guilt, all the shame. I don't say this happens for everybody in the instant, but it was instantaneous. Every bit of shame was eradicated. I slept through the night in the first time in over like a year plus. And then I went into, it was like a week or so later, I got a call to go into vocational ministry, where then I was in for 15 years.
Wow.
And I just got a call from a pastor who said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a job." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I don't understand. Why are you calling me? I'm not looking for a job." Went in, interviewed, got a job, started ministry.
Wow.
And so that's my, my faith journey, how I started out,
Well,
that
cool
was definitely
story.
not 3 minutes. That was like an entire
No,
podcast
no.
episode full.
I tell you what, let's just
Full.
pivot right
Yeah.
now. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I don't think I'll be able to make that a short, even if I tried. But that was a fun journey. So now you're doing business as Spokane Biz Doctors. Talk about that.
Yeah, so that's a faith journey too. I think there's not a less than a handful of people even in our community who did vocational ministry for X amount of years and then maybe started a business, and then what does that even look like? Like Paul made tents. And so God called me to start a business 14 years ago. Started here locally in Spokane. Have been serving local businesses, even nonprofits, parachurch organizations, for the last 14 years. And then more recently, partnering with Shad, who's hanging out in the studio right now, behind the scenes. But Spokane Biz Doctors is the idea that small business many times doesn't have the budget to hire like a big marketing firm to give them a solid marketing plan, to implement everything that it takes in this day and age to promote your business online.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot. It's like you have to run your own company inside your own company, to do it. And it like takes up your whole time. Yeah. It's like, when do I run my own business? I don't have the time to do it anymore because I got to take care of all these things on the regular. I don't have necessarily the budget either to like offload it all to somebody else.
Right.
And so we're trying to bridge that gap where we're helping businesses find maybe a sweet spot for them where, hey, if somebody gave you this plan, that has been developed over, and I would say it's not just like the last year, it's like the last 14 years of everything I've done for businesses all along the way.
Right.
From startups who went from, raising $15 million and getting 500 employees, and being super successful, to a guy who mows lawns for a living, does lawn care or something, or a window cleaner or a plumber or anything like that. That's localized. Like the thing is true for both.
Right.
Everybody needs a good plan that they can execute on.
Yeah.
What can they afford to do in the season that will help them scale and grow and kind of, well, not just right now, it's kind of like, how do you survive the current economy?
Yeah.
How do you then, how do you be the most cost effective with your marketing spend that you do have that might be small? How do you implement that with the best manner that you can to get the best impact with it? How can you make sure your business is found online in search, because it's so important?
Yeah.
And even in the chat models like ChatGPT, how can your business be found there now? Because people go to search inside of those, and they get recommendations back about different businesses, even here locally.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's how I find new stuff that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'll do a chat and it'll pop up something and I'll discover a new business.
So I know two business owners, both very well. One's a wedding venue like ours, and well, not like ours, but a wedding venue, and the other's a hard money lender. And they both have been served by companies like you, and the net result is extraordinary. I mean, it's just it's 10x,
Yeah, so they've been successful. They've really
10x, 100x.
It's just
awesome. Ginormous. Because the people like you who know what you're doing in marketing and Google and SEO and all this nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, you really bring high power to the table in ways that if we try to figure it out, we'll just stumble along. And, you know, because I started, you know, a YouTube channel. I got Facebook, I got Instagram. But it's, you know, it's effectively not doing what these other people are experiencing because there's experts on the back end or the front end or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's the content side, right? Which is a big piece of the puzzle. And then, well, then what do you do in the back end to promote the content after you
I have no idea.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the whole like
I
marketing
get 10
strategy.
views on my
Marketing
videos,
strategy point. Well, yeah, and you know, it just depends on what context. I would say there's, you know, overall I always look at track record and performance over time. And when you've built something, you build value into it, and then you can leverage that value later.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like you, Alec, don't have any waste because you've invested all of this over time.
Yeah.
And maybe it just hasn't been distributed in a way that people can absorb the content as much, right?
I'm not disappointed at all. The truth is I get everybody in here, we have a nice chat, and I get to talk to them about coaching, you know, and it works out really well. Yeah. And sometimes I can cut parts of, you know, what we do into a short or a commercial, and I feel like it's good. It's good content, you know. It's good for them to share. It's good for my YouTube channel. So I'm not disappointed at all. I'm just saying that the difference between having a professional come up with a plan and us just trying to, you know, wing it and figure it out, it's pretty significantly different. I mean, my friend that has the wedding venue, I cannot believe how well his professional assistant has grown his business. His mind is blown because he's, you know, first year and and obviously he's doing a lot of good work. But anyway, I force you to digress. All right. So you help small business owners with their marketing strategy using really cool tools. How would someone get a hold of you, and who's a perfect client?
Good question. So SpokaneBizDoctors.com.
We'll put that right down here in a banner.
And who's our perfect client? Oh, truly anybody who feels like they're struggling to grow online. Okay. Anyone who feels like they're not being found, or their competitors are being found before them. Okay. Anybody who feels like we do a really good job, and if people knew that, we would be competitive, or, you know, in the top of the market.
So you guys have a pretty cool onboarding system. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it's Biz Doctors because, you know, when you go into a doctor, you felt like an intake, or you meet with a nurse who kind of checks your vitals. So we developed a system that's automated that walks the business or the business owner through a process of a questionnaire, very pertinent to their own business, what they're dealing with, what their goals are, what they might be struggling with, what maybe their strengths, their weaknesses, and taking all of that and creating for them it's kind of like a playbook or blueprint that's going to help them understand what they might not know currently about their business. It tells them also about tools they might not be aware of that they can implement for their business. It also gives them a roadmap that they could either give to a marketer or marketing firm, a third-party freelancer. They can implement it themselves if they don't have the budget for that. Like if they want to take the time, they can. It step by step gives you the process of how to use these tools and use automation for yourself, how to promote yourself, like without a budget. You just get the blueprint part. You can also hire us and others to do portions of the work inside of that, because some of the things might be a heavy tackle for people to try to implement themselves. That they might just say, I just don't have the, I don't have the bandwidth or the time or the knowledge or the skill or even the inclination to learn. They're just like, I don't want to mess with it, And so then a lot of people say, hey, just do my SEO. Yeah, Glad to.
Nice.
I've had a huge success with that for tons of companies. That's kind of been my primary with like contracts. I help people, rank. So they are found on Google, and typically people already have hired somebody and they're like, I don't like the results. I don't get any clicks. I don't get any customers. Well, because most conglomerates hire somebody who sublets it to somebody else who doesn't, you know, it's kind of it's passed the buck down to the person. The lowest common denominator is somebody who isn't actually an expert in the industry.
Yeah.
It kind of just gets resold and passed down, and people are like, well, what am I paying for? I don't understand. Like, we had somebody who was great, and then all of a sudden we have somebody who doesn't seem to know what they're doing, and nothing's happening, and we're paying them $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year, and we have zero. That's the kind of story I've dealt with so many times. 20 grand out the door for zero conversions, which boggles my mind. That like how is this possible? I'm like, you could be the worst at your job and still you could still,
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's hard to believe.
It's hard to believe, but it happens all the time.
Huh.
It's a very strange market, you
Okay.
know. So
Well, what 2026? What are you looking forward to? What's got you excited and hopeful?
2026. Right now I'm working on. Well, this is kind of like, it's exciting and it's also slightly concerning, and I don't really know what the future holds. But I used to do a lot of social media management, which is kind of a position that you might have a college grad kind of dovetail into. They take over like making photos, posting, sending out, doing DMs, talking to people. And so now it's in this agentic AI age, we can build systems that automate that entire process in the context of like a personhood that is doing all this, like doing outreach, writing emails, talking to people, DMing people, connecting you to them, like through a phone call, connecting you to them through a direct message, connecting you to them through
That's insane.
A text message. So they're basically a virtualized agent who has their own persona that works for you 24/7. Doesn't take a break, doesn't take vacation, doesn't complain, and then you upgrade them if they need more skills.
Well, let me just say,
it's kind
to
of
the
wild.
people that might be watching this, this idea has always been to me really interesting and terrifying.
Mhm.
Like, it's too much for me to wrap my brain around. But if I had someone to hold my hand
Mhm.
and help me have an agent, really actively involved in coaching the Redline, my
Mhm.
business, and making contacts and doing stuff that was like trustworthy and worthy of paying,
Mhm.
that's a different story. It's really a
Mhm.
different story than, I'm just gonna download the agent, pay $20 a month for ChatGPT or whatever it
Mhm.
is. I pay for ChatGPT because I freaking love it.
Mhm.
But man, an agent seems like next level, but if you could pay someone to help you figure it out, that'd be, I think, money well spent.
Yeah, and you're right, because you have to think of it as, if you were hiring someone yourself, how would you want them to communicate? Like, it's kind of like they're acting on your behalf, so it can't just be cookie cutter. It needs to be like Alec Gonzales coaching the Redline. Who are you? How do you approach people? How do you want them to know, not just what your service is, but like the overall context of everything that you're offering, the value system, everything that you know. Because typically cold outreach isn't done by someone who knows the big picture necessarily. If you hire someone to cold call, but with the agent, you can feed them all the information that you've ever generated, and it will take that and condense it down into a knowledge base that allows it to access when someone has a question. It gives them the right answer, but it's not just information that's out on the internet or making something up, but it's your information, your own information, only your information.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that's all we got. Normally I ask a question about both trouble and difficulty and how it's played a role, but you already talked about that. But I wonder if in your experience you've ever had a coach or a spiritual director or someone that really paid attention to you and
Hmm.
was instrumental in your growth and development.
Absolutely, and life changing, life altering, and life saving.
Oh, nice.
Because after 15 years of vocational ministry, I was completely burnt out. My marriage was falling apart. I didn't see my children. I hadn't taken a vacation in like multiple years.
Yeah.
I worked 7 days a week. Most of the times I would work till about 2 a.m.
Yeah.
on the regular.
Were you
And
bivocational or were you?
I ended up having to be because the cost of living just kept increasing,
Okay.
especially when I was in LA. And so then I was full-time in ministry and I was working a second job on top of that just to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
And so it was a grind beyond grind. And
Yeah.
then so when I left there, not too long after, I had a life coach, and he was my life coach for 7 years,
Oh, wow.
and taught me so much about what it actually means to balance life, how to succeed in life. He's like, no vacations? Are you crazy? He's like, you need to build in vacations, and well, 1,000 things that I was just doing wrong because I was burning myself out, burning my family out. It was causing problems in the ministry. It was causing problems with my health. It was causing problems in everything.
That's great.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm blessed and lucky to have that, the person that I had at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And in God's grace, I don't even know where I'd be, honestly, if I didn't have that person. I don't know.
Well, that's a great segue for me. If you're a pastor or a leader or a salesperson and you want to think about how a coach could change your life, I'd love it if you'd call me, Alec at Coaching the Redline. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's been quite
you.
fun. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Corey James at SpokaneBizDoctors.com. Thank you. Have a good day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Alec.